Yo, this is Postman and welcome back to the channel. My latest EP, Overly Elaborate Track Titles, is out now on Billegal Beats and was inspired by Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Each track covers one of my favorite archetypes to pilot in Master Duel, one for each attribute. I'm doing a track walkthrough for each of these tracks. In this video, I will explain the inspiration and show some highlights of Ionospheric Gigantic Spright Ultraviolet Perturbation. Let's dive in. This track is inspired by the Spright archetype, a collection of Thunder-type monsters sporting some serious drip. They are divided in the Dark and Fire attributes, but since the Dark types really sparked something in me, the Spright track represents the Dark attribute. Sprites are based on sprites, not the beverage, but the folklore creature. And they are also based on sprites. Again, not the beverage, but different kinds of upper atmosphere lightning. These special phenomena happen above the thunderclouds and have different luminous colors depending on their altitude. But I'm really simplifying stuff here. All of these transient luminous events have names inspired by folklore creatures, except for starters and jets. You have the titular sprites, you have elves, trolls, pixies, ghosts, and gnomes. There are also these amazing gigantic jets, the inspiration for the gigantic sprite monster. Since the theme of the archetype is so electrifying, I choose to let me be inspired by the sounds of Current Value. His signature cold and digital sounds come straight out of a Matrix dystopia fueled by human batteries. I try to combine that with IDM and drill and bass influences to give the track a more hectic feel. The last sonic inspiration was Phonk, out of all things. It's a music genre full of attitude, which really fits the drip of the Spright archetype. Let's get to some highlights. The main drum loop consists out of different kicks, creating a kind of pulsing groove. Here I have more clean kicks. In the other track you have more distorted or processed kicks. On top of that, I layered a lot of different IDM style percussion loops. All of them are really snappy, and I did this with something I call transient gating. The gist of it is you go into Sample Editor View, you set the warp mode to beat mode, then you have an option to preserve the transient, and you click the no looping option. You shorten the transients and you get instant IDM jitteriness. For interesting loops and general inspiration, I would recommend Twisted Tools, Samples, and Devices. The main processing tool here for the basses is IL Vocodex for a rubbery feel. It's pretty much a vanilla setup of the plugin, but the sample choice is the thing that is important here. I used some Current Value style basses, which are actually samples of him, Villain type basses, also from a Villain sample pack, and all of these basses have some high-end texture or a digital harshness, plus a very industrial feel, which I kinda process away with the vocodex. Important to note here is that these basses function more as textural element and help fund the groove, more than being actual melodic content. This laser bass is a patch I made in Vital, or a patch I stole from Vital. It's a spectral and additive bass, and it's from the Halcyon preset pack and is slightly modified to my tastes. The first version you hear in the song is a low-pass drone, then processed again by vocodecs. The second version is with heavy modulation on the notch filter, and it's gated by the main drum sample loop. I found out that externally gating a sound to a ghost track, if you will, or only sand track can really help shape a static sound to a certain groove and make it way more interesting. The first few iterations of the Phonk Lead are some samples, but then I created my own to enable more modulation. The basics of a Phonk Lead are not that difficult. It's basically a 808 cowbell. You take a saw or a square oscillator, and the second oscillator is a fourth above or 5 semitones above the first oscillator. Then you put a low pass filter on it with an envelope, closing fast. My version adds a lot of different automations in different parameters, and it has a reverb by force Max for Live devices. Speaking of Max for Live devices, this track has a lot of them. I use Void, a transient friendly reverb on the Phonk lead, some other leads, bass tap, and the intro percussion. I use Box, a tonal reverb, also on the main Phonk lead. Ego, a grainy delay on a lead sound, which I found in a culprit sample pack. Lux, a hands-on additive synth. I use it in the latter half of the track as some kind of lead. And then you have Precipitator, I guess in-team Max for Live devices by Wolk. It's an additive resynthesis effect. You could compare it a bit to FL's Harmor. What I think it does is it analyzes the signal, determines the frequencies found in the input, and resynthesizes these frequencies using an inboard wavetable engine. But that's me guessing. What matters most is that it sorts of liquefies a sound and gives it that instant spectral and additive synthesis feel to it. So, thanks for watching this video. I hope you learned something from it. Again, thanks to Billegal Beats for releasing this EP. And I hope to catch you next time.